If you currently have lyrics or poetry that you want to put to music, this is the video for you. Because in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 of my tips to make it easier to put poetry to music. And this video comes straight from a question in the comments. This is from Luca saying, "My lyrics are great, if I do say so myself, but I struggle sometimes to pair them with music. Feel free to make a video on what to do if you have your lyrics first, how to come up with good melodies, harmonies, if you haven't done this already, of course. I just got here, so I'm still looking at what you have up here. So far, great channel." Well, thank you for the kind words, and I will feel free to make this video, but we're going to talk about how to write a melody off of lyrics. We're not going to dive into the harmony because I just came out with a series on this channel about how to write your harmonies from your melody, which is really the order that I think you should write. You should focus on writing a great melody first, and then write the great harmonies to supplement that melody. So you can check out those videos, but in this video, we will directly address the melody. So my first tip is that order matters. So a song is basically 3 parts, right? You have your melody, you have your lyrics, and then you have your chords. Or seen another way, you have the entirety of the harmony, which is just all the music that supplements the melody. So if you already have your lyrics written or your poem written, you have lyrics down. So the question is, what next? Should I do the melody or should I do the arrangement or part of the arrangement, like say a guitar riff or a piano part? And when starting with lyrics first, I would actually advise you to start with the melody, and there's a couple of reasons for this. One reason for this is because I believe songwriting is a funnel. The basic idea of a funnel, right, is that it's very wide at the top, and then over time, as it gets further along, it actually gets thinner and thinner. And this is true in songwriting in that as you make more and more creative choices, you have fewer and fewer options. A relatively obvious way to think of this might be that if you have lyrics first, then you already have syllables per line, which constrains your melody. If you have 7 syllables per line, then you're probably not going to have a 20-note melody. But if you had written your melody first, you can have as many notes as you want in your melody because you're not constrained by the lyrics you already have. And this is true with all creative choices we make along the songwriting journey. So I'm a proponent generally of writing the more important parts of a song first, because when you have the most creative room, you want to utilize that creative room on the parts of a song that your listeners will actually remember and your listeners will actually notice. And personally, I think it's basically indisputable that a melody is more important than the chords. We all know the melodies of our favorite songs, but a lot of us don't even notice the chord progression. In fact, the only time I even notice chord progressions is usually when it's a 1-5-6-4, because I'm too busy hearing it and rolling my eyes saying, ugh, again? But most of the time I'm too busy listening to the melody, the lyrics, the cool guitar parts, piano riff. Those are the type of things that we notice. Another reason that I would recommend actually writing the melody before you write the chords is because the melody is more directly connected with the lyrics. If you think about it, the melody is really the bridge between the lyrics and the chords. You can have any chords underlying any lyrics and it doesn't really matter. But your melody is somewhat constrained by the lyrics because the syllables need to match and the emphases should match. And the melody is also somewhat constrained by the chords because you can't have just any melody on top of any chords. But when it comes to looking at lyrics and chords, the only real connection between them is via the melody. So if you think of it like a slope, it makes sense on the way to writing your chords to actually write the melody because you already have the lyrics. What's the natural next step? The melody. And as a bonus tip here, something I find especially helpful when you're writing your melody from just lyrics is something I like to call the a cappella test. So the a cappella test is basically this test where you gather all of the delusions of grandeur that you possibly can, and then you fantasize and you think to yourself, imagine I'm playing in the biggest stadium on earth and all my fans are screaming and all the lights go down. And I come out with a mic and there's just one light and it's just on me because it's all about me, obviously. And as I come out, I start singing the melody of that hit song. And everybody gets their candles out, and by candles I mean cell phones, and sing along because they feel the emotion of the song just with me singing the lyrics. And all poking fun of it aside, I do think this test is actually really helpful because it helps you get to the root of the main question you need to be asking. Do these lyrics pair perfectly with the melody? Do the lyrics and the melody tell the same story? And the other question that it answers is if you strip away all the other distractions, if you strip away that cool guitar riff, if you strip away those awesome power chords, if you take away that catchy bass line, on their own, are the lyrics and the melody truly emotive? Are they truly moving on their own? Because if they are, the rest of your songwriting becomes easy, because any greatness in the rest of your song is just going to be the cherry on top, because if your lyric and your melody crush it, that's 90% of the way to a great song. So the best way to do this a cappella test is literally to practice singing this melody you're writing out loud with your lyrics and ask yourself, does this convey the emotion? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably on the right track. If it's no, or if it sounds awkward, or if it seems a little off, then it probably is a little off and you need to rework it. Tip number 2 is to find the natural emphases in the words. Even as I talk, there are emphases in certain places, right? If I say, the cat is gone, the emphases are on the cat is gone, right? Those are the words that are emphasized. If I said, the cat is gone, that would make you say, oh, well, what cat? What do you mean, the cat? It's like when people from Ohio say, the Ohio State University. You're like, that's not how English works. It's the Ohio State University. Anyway, the point is that lyrics, poems, or even sentences have natural emphases. And these natural emphases add to the meaning. For example, when you ask a question, the dog is here, it goes up. When I say the dog is here, it goes down because it's a statement. So right there, you can already hear the pitch difference. There's already sort of a melody in that. So we really want the emphases of the melody to match the emphases of the words. And you can tell the emphases of the words just by saying them out loud. And generally, we want to pair that with emphases in the melodies. How do you emphasize in a melody? Well, there's basically 3 different ways. One way that you can emphasize something in the melody is by a held note. If you hold a note for a long time, that tends to be something that's emphasized. For example, if you held the for the longest time, that would be weird. But if you hold the word love for a long time, when that's the subject of the sentence, that feels about right. Another way that you can highlight a word or syllable is by actually having that note be one of the highest notes in your melody or one of your lowest notes. So if you think about it, the emphases, even as I talk, the emphases, that tends to be more excited, and more excited usually means higher pitch. So a lot of times you want your emphasized syllables to be either at the top of your melody or at the bottom of your melody, because you notice the words I say at the top and at the bottom more than you notice the words in between. The third main way to highlight emphases in melodies is pretty connected to the last way, which is just through large leaps. For example, in somewhere over the rainbow, you notice the somewhere, right? Because it's jumping up a whole octave. It highlights that syllable. My third tip for putting your poetry to music is to actually go find a synth pad or some form of drone or atmosphere sound that really embodies the vibe that you're going for in your song and the vibe of your lyrics. The reason this can work so well is that there's not actually enough musical information within a one-note drone or an atmosphere to actually inspire each of the notes of a melody, but there is enough of a vibe to inspire an emotion that you feel that will make it easier to write a better melody that fits with your lyrics. This is sort of the musical equivalent of what Brandon Sanderson, a famous fantasy writer, talks about what he does when he writes scenes in his book. He's talked about how he actually likes to listen to soundtrack type music while he's writing chapters of his book, and he finds a soundtrack that he feels fits the scene. So he's actually using the music to sort of inspire him to write the right words. In this case, we're just finding atmospheric sounds or just a basic pad to sort of inspire the right melody. If you've seen some of my other videos or been a podcast listener for a while, you may have heard me talk about my brainstorm sheet and how I often like to start brainstorming a song and developing a song before I really dive into it. One of the key parts of those is me going to Google Images and finding images that evoke the emotion of the song. That way I have images that are worth 1,000 words that really inspire the music and the lyrics that I write so that it has sort of a cohesive feel. But if you pick the right synth atmosphere or pad that has the right vibe that goes along with your lyrics, then it will really help you to write the right melody that also goes perfectly with those lyrics and with the vibe that you're trying to set. So I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, be sure to drop a like. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. If you're interested in more songwriting videos, be sure to subscribe and click the little notification bell as well. And if you're looking to break outside of your box of maybe starting with poetry or lyrics first, be sure to download my free guide on 10 different ways to start writing a song. It gives you 5 different ways to start from a lyrical standpoint, which is something you clearly already do because you watched this video. And it also gives you 5 different ways to start a song from a musical standpoint. Because look, I used to be a person that always wrote lyrics first, because I thought to myself, lyrics are the most important, therefore I must write it first. And I was partially right. I think you should write the most important parts of a song towards the beginning, but I don't think that you necessarily need to start with what you consider the most important. There's a bunch of different ways to start writing a song, and there's a bunch of different really successful ways that you can start writing a song. I'm personally a big fan of changing up how you start writing a song, because how you start writing a song often has a huge influence on what your song ends up becoming. If you're somebody who plays multiple instruments, you may have noticed the songs you tend to write when you sit with your guitar versus the songs that you write with your piano actually tend to be pretty different. Maybe more obviously, if you sit with a harmonica versus an electric guitar, you're almost definitely going to come up with very different music. One's probably going to be a little folk sounding and one's probably going to be a little more rock sounding. So in the same way, starting to write a song from different standpoints helps you to break out of your creative box a bit. So if you're interested in learning 10 different ways, be sure to download that free guide. Link in the description. It's at songwritertheory.com/free guide. Thank you for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will talk to you next time.